This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live.
This week we're talking about taking meaningful breaks during the school day. So, with the pressures of teaching, it's easy to forget the importance of stepping back and recharging. Tune in for practical tips and research-backed strategies to make time for yourself, boost your well-being, and be the absolute best for your students. Don't miss out.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live. Tune in live at ttradio.org, or to join in the conversation, download the Podbean app and search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TTRadio. Tune in, talk it out with Teachers Talk Radio.
Well, good evening and welcome to tonight's Late Late Show with me, Chris Wilkinson. And I'm so glad you've joined us this evening because tonight we're talking about something that is absolutely vital to the well-being of all teachers. It's taking meaningful breaks throughout the day. Now, we all know that teaching is a demanding job, and whether it's planning lessons, marking papers, managing classrooms, speaking to parents, should I go on attending meetings? It's we're constantly on the go, and more often than not, the first thing that gets sacrificed is our own time and our breaks, if we are lucky enough to have them. So I've got a question to shoot off straight away here. How many times do you eat your lunch with one hand? One hand working, the other hand eating. I must admit, I thought of this the other day, hence this is what's prompted the show tonight. I was thinking, oh dear me, actually I'm doing this with one hand, and there was always that danger that was going to be the case when you go into teaching, but you don't actually realise it until you start doing it. You think, oh dear, here I am. But I mean, here's the thing. There's a growing body of research in the UK that tells us how important it is for teachers to step away, to recharge and give ourselves the space to reset. So I'm going to look at why breaks are so crucial, how to make the most of them, and how schools can help teachers take the time they need to stay mentally and physically healthy. So whether you're listening while on your break, or if you're wondering how to make the most of your next free period, well, tonight's show is about helping you feel refreshed and supported. So let's start with why breaks are so important. It turns out that taking regular breaks during the day isn't just a luxury, it's an absolute necessity for maintaining productivity and reducing stress. And overall, just improving our mental and our physical health. And this is particularly true for teachers whose roles require constant cognitive and emotional investment, which of course is all of us, of course. So let's look at the science behind it. The human brain isn't built for prolonged periods of intense focus without that rest. And the way our brains work is actually very similar to a muscle. It gets fatigued when overused. And research has shown that about 90 minutes of intense focus, cognitive performance declines significantly. This is because our brains need time to consolidate information and rest. Now, I don't know about you, but I do 90-minute sessions twice on a morning. So by 12:15, by lunchtime, I've done two 90-minute sessions. So if the research tells me this, and if I'm led to believe this research, then I'm well and truly due a break by 12:15. Even if I do have that 15-minute break in between the sessions, which very rarely happens, given that you need to speak to students, respond to emails, and in our case, maybe update the records for attendances, punctuality, behavioural issues, and whatever. So if you do take that 15 minutes into account, I still believe that by 12:15, my brain at least, is certainly due a break and a rest. Like I said, because we need to consolidate our time for information and rest. And one of the leading researchers in this area, Dr. John Medina, who is a molecular biologist and the author of Brain Rules, he emphasizes that the brain needs regular rest to function at its best. And according to Medina, our brains process information more effectively, when we take short, frequent breaks. And studies have found that workers, especially teachers, who take regular breaks are more productive than those who push through the day without stopping. So this is almost a prescription to take a break at lunchtime when you have the chance to. Now, what I'm going to talk about later is I'm going to give some examples as to how I take them breaks at lunchtime, and how taking a break isn't just about sitting having your lunch. It's about actually stepping away from the work environment altogether. A little bit pie in the sky, you might say. And I was very skeptical of this when I started doing it, thinking this is never going to work. But I promise you, what's been happening is that I have been flying through the afternoons because of this, and even having time at the end of the teaching to then make the most of certain jobs that maybe I might not have been able to do if I was too fatigued. So I'm really going to emphasize the fact that I do take my breaks in order to do that. And also, a study by the Education Support Partnership in 2018 found that teachers who take short, regular, frequent breaks every sort of 45 to 60 minutes outside of class time, of course, are significantly less likely to feel mentally drained by the end of the day. And this research reveals that teachers who regularly take breaks report feeling more in control of their stress levels as well, and more capable of maintaining focus in their lessons. So again, it's a little bit pie in the sky to say every 45 to 60 minutes, because like I said myself, in the mornings, I have two 90-minute sessions. So taking a 45-minute break in the morning, apologies, not taking a 45-minute break, taking a break every 45 minutes on a morning is nigh on impossible, if I'm honest. So I'm not saying that we can always do this, but certainly if we have the opportunity to, we can. And them 60 minutes is what I teach on an afternoon. So I can certainly take them breaks on the afternoon. And even if it's just short breaks, again, I'm going to explain how I do that and what research is out there to say that this is the best way to do things as well. And so, again, why is this? Well, regular breaks help us to reset our cognitive function. And we need them cognitive functions as teachers. I mean, we get told in every CPD session we go to, and we know this anyway, we don't need to be told it, but we are reminded that we are metacognition teachers. We are teachers who deliver metacognition. We are essentially metacognition enforcers, as it were. And so how can we be great at delivering metacognition if our cognitive function ourselves isn't where it should be? And so during that break, your brain doesn't necessarily switch off as such, but it does reprocess the information that it's absorbed, which is brilliant for allowing you to return to the task at hand with more clarity and focus. And if I've got a session that, if I've got a politics session first lesson, then I've got to go into a first year law class after that, I almost need that really. I need to cleanse the palate, as it were, and whatever the brain equivalent of that is clearly something to do with taking regular breaks. And of course, there's a biological reason for this as well, because when you do take a break, even for just a few minutes, your brain produces this dopamine, which is it's almost like a neurotransmitter linking, which is linked to feelings of motivation and pleasure. And certainly the motivation aspect of that is what we need to get through the day, what's going to get us through this next session, and then breaks really help us to do that. And of course, it helps us to restore the focus and energy levels that really your students deserve from you. They deserve you to, they deserve your focus and your energy levels. And of course, not just the students, but you yourself deserve to have that focus and energy level as well. And in contrast, when you push through the day without a proper break, you don't get the same dopamine boost. And over time, you feel sluggish, less engaged, less motivated, and quite frankly, you feel a bit poor. Well, I certainly do feel that I'm a bit poor at my job, and we know we're not. But them feelings do creep in if we don't take care of ourselves. Now, let's talk about some specific benefits of taking breaks for teachers, not just for working, but for teachers. We all know that teaching can be mentally demanding. So constantly engaging with students, managing classrooms and adapting lessons requires a lot of cognitive energy. Now, I know that I have probably I've probably spent the last 4 years on my feet in the classroom. I very rarely get to sit down. I might take the register at the beginning, sitting down, and then really the computer's locked and I'm engaged for the lesson, and that's a lot of time on your feet as well as mentally. It's a physical thing as well. So that that break really helps with all sorts of things really. But ultimately, like what I'm saying is, because it's so mentally demanding, and you need that constant engagement with the students. You do need to take care of your cognitive energy, and when you take a break, you're allowing your brain to take a step back and reorganize and ultimately reset at times as well. But like I said, there's a physical aspect to this too. The Royal Society for Public Health in the UK is raised concerned about the risks of long hours spent sitting, at our desks when we're not working, when we're not teaching, but also actually standing for long periods of times as well, because prolonged standing can increase the risk of all sorts of pains and strains, and even some sort of cardiovascular problems as well. And when you're sitting down for periods of time, that's true too. I think it's less of a problem for teachers sitting down a lot. I think we spend a lot of time on our feet standing. But there might be times that we are sitting down a lot as well, because we take our in our lunch breaks we're glued to our desk doing things as well. So if you are finding yourself sitting down for them long periods of times at lunchtime, the NHS actually recommends that adults should take regular breaks from sitting, ideally around about every 30 minutes. So you're almost being prescribed by the NHS to get away from your desk at lunchtime rather than actually sitting there doing work, and actually, getting out and doing something. So this could mean standing up from the desk, getting out of the staff room, and even, going for a little bit of a walk. And another study, in fact, conducted by the HSE, found that in 2019, workers, especially teachers, who incorporated physical activity into their day, like walking around, reported feeling less physically drained. Now, like I say, we do a lot of walking around anyway, so that might be less of a problem for us. But if we do find ourselves sitting down for long periods of time because we need to catch up with our correspondence, speak to parents, and do a lot of our planning and marking, having them breaks is about feeling less physically drained and just having that, getting away from that overall fatigue. And again, it isn't just about physical energy. Most of our problems are about the mental aspects as well. But it also improves, getting up and walking about at lunchtime can improve circulation and helps reduce stiffness that comes from long periods of time sitting at our desk or in the front of a classroom. Now, like I said, this is almost like a mixed message here that there's almost two types of breaks, and I'm hoping you understand that that's what I'm getting at here, because there is two types of breaks. There's one mental break where it's about stepping away from your desk because the cognitive overload that you can get from looking at a lot of reports and marking papers and teaching, and speaking to parents, without taking a break from the teaching aspect as well. So the standing, walking up a little bit sort of coincides with the fact that we should actually be getting away from our desks, not working at lunchtime, and maybe using both hands to eat, who knows. um, and other studies as well. I mean, this one's from the University of Illinois, of all places. It found that students' academic performance improved after their teachers had taken a proper break. Again, I think this is a really important point. I get this. I actually fully agree, because the breaks that I've been taking, and I will sort of explain how I take my breaks a little bit later, but how I take my breaks is really beneficial to the afternoon sessions. And I feel that if I can work till 3:30 teaching, then the students are much more likely to be on task as well, and more likely to come along with me, because my energy is infectious in the classroom. So it's about, not just teachers taking breaks, but actually it can positively benefit the whole community and the schools as well. And it can have that positive ripple effect on the classroom environment and student outcomes as well. So in our next segment, we're going to talk about the kinds of breaks that are most effective, what you can do in those brief moments to maximize the benefits of taking a break. But first let's take a break ourselves, and I encourage you to take a moment to stand up, stretch, or walk around, whatever helps you to, of course, recharge. So we'll be right back.
This show is brought to you in partnership with Hachette Learning, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Level up your professional development today and visit hachetlearning.com to explore the full range of titles.
Teachers, have you heard of Bet UK 2026? It's the world's biggest education and technology event, and it's completely free for educators. From keynote speakers and panel sessions to CPD accredited workshops and networking, Bet UK 2026 is where educators from across the globe come together to share ideas, spark inspiration, and find solutions that fuel our mission to drive better education globally. Get your free ticket today at betshow.com.
Well, welcome back to the Late Late Show with me, Chris Wilkinson. And what we've established, essentially, is that breaks are so very crucial. Now, let's dive into the types of breaks that are most effective for teachers. Because not all breaks are created equal. The quality and the type of break that you take can make a huge difference in how refreshed and ready you feel for the rest of your day. So let's start with this idea of a micro break. These are the short breaks, lasting maybe only 1 to 5 minutes. And they're perfect for teachers who are feeling the pressure of back-to-back lessons. I know I certainly feel that on a morning. First lesson's at 9 o'clock, second one's at 10:45. So between 10:30 and 11:15, I have this opportunity to have this micro break. And I do take micro breaks, I must say, and even if that is the detriment of maybe progress, sometimes you might say, could you have sent another email in that sort of 5 minutes? Probably, but it's not the detriment of everything else that we've already explored. And micro breaks are about quick, easy actions that can help reset your mind and body. So for me, it's about not just walking to the class, walking to the next class. What I tend to do is I'll pack up my things for that particular lesson and go straight to the next lesson, drop me things off, and then essentially you've got 15 minutes. Well, you've got 15 minutes before the lesson starts. So you're thinking maybe 5 minutes to prepare and set up. And then that really gives you 10 minutes, really. And I think 10 minutes is probably too long, but you've got them 5, maybe 6, 7 minutes to do something. And I actually just walk around the block. Basically, I say the block. It's a corridor essentially, and it's one big circle, and I just have a wander around. And quite often, you'll walk past people and just say, "Hello, morning, hi, you all right? How's it going?" Yeah, and maybe just you get a bit of a dopamine hit by just doing that, just having that opportunity, just to see everyone, hello, and really just get yourself wandering around. I know one teacher who says what they'll do is they'll get to the classroom. They don't work with me, but they'll get the classroom and they'll lock the door. They'll go in, they'll lock the door, and they've got 5 minutes, and they'll sit there and breathe, literally breathing exercise. Not every day, but if they feel that was a tough lesson, I need to reset, they'll cleanse the palate by breathing. So taking a few deep breathing exercises, and they found that is a huge, huge thing for them. I tried that. Not a big fan of breathing, if I'm honest. Sounds like a, but I'm not. I tried yoga a few times, and I think the breathing really, it's meant to be amazing, and I'm yet to be convinced. So not for me, but he loves it, and it's fair enough. Either way, it's a chance for his body and your body, or whoever's, to let go of some of that mental tension without completely stepping away from the classroom. You're just stepping away from it mentally, if you like, for them periods of time. And micro breaks are also effective because they allow you to give your body a quick reset without actually losing any momentum. And this is a really important point because, if you're in the first session and you've had that momentum going, you don't want to lose that. But at the same time, you just want to give your brain a bit of a break. And you might find that 1 to 5 minutes actually isn't enough to make a difference. But actually, the research does back this up. And a study from the University of Edinburgh, I found, this from University of Edinburgh, found that even brief periods of movement can reduce mental fatigue and improve concentration. So next time you're feeling overwhelmed, just remember that a quick stretch of deep breathing exercises might just be all you need to recharge. And of course, lock the door. Give yourself a minute. Lock the door and just reset. And then let them in and unleash that cognitive spirit that you are. But what about these longer breaks? Because you can't take longer breaks in between sessions, but you can if you've got an hour at lunchtime. You certainly can. And teachers will get a lunch break. Now, I hear you. Some of you will say, that's all fine and well, Chris, but I don't get an hour for lunch. Absolutely. And that's if that's the case, then I'm really sorry. I can only really speak from my experience, and I get an hour. And I think this is a huge. Our lunch break is a recovery day. Don't get an hour every day, by the way. So maybe 45 minutes on a Monday. About an hour most other days, but a bit shorter on a Monday. But still, I think these are absolutely pivotal times. But of course, some teachers actually tell me they feel guilty about taking the full break. Now, I can't say I always take the full break. I can't, because what I'll do is I'll get back at maybe 15 minutes before the lesson. I'll have the lesson set up, by the way, so I'll go straight to the classroom from wherever I am and maybe do 15 minutes catching up emails and such, but never take the full hour. But I take a long period of that time, and I really make a point of it. And I think it's made a huge difference. I really look forward to lunchtime now because I get to take that break and actually jump into the afternoons, like I've said. So this is what I do, just to let you know how the sort of longer break situation works for me. So on a Tuesday and a Thursday in particular, I'm actually in the same lesson. I'm in the same classroom for lesson 2 and lesson 3. So I'll take all my stuff in that I need for lesson 2 and lesson 3 in advance, so that I don't have to go back to the staff room and get it. It's just all there. So literally lunchtime, once the students have gone, everyone's happy, I will lock the door behind me, and we have a staff area downstairs that is completely separate to the rest of the college. So I know, again, schools don't have this. Sometimes teachers tell me that they have to mix with the students. They all share the same tables and chairs, which is fair enough, which means that they end up back in the staff room because they haven't got the space downstairs, which inevitably leads them to doing some work because they can't just sit there without feeling guilty, which, again, I can totally sympathise with. But we're lucky, and I'm fortunate enough to have this staff space downstairs. And I actually, when I first got unveiled, I just thought, I'm never going to have time to go down there. But it was actually New Year. I made a pledge, and I'd made a show in the New Year. It was my 10 resolutions, and one of them, or certainly one of them, was I'm going to take time for myself during the working day. So what I'll do is I'll go down, have my lunch, which, again, it's an amazing place because they've got microwaves and they've got a tap that pours out instant hot water, which is amazing. So I guess I'm spoiled in that sense that I can just sit and have lunch somewhere. But I do, and I take advantage of the fact that my college do this for us, and they really make a point of making wellness part of their agenda. So I take advantage of what a college does, and I will take time and sit there and watch something if I want, or read, or quite often just chat with people. I often go down with the intention of being on my own because I quite like the idea of actually not as unsociable as it sounds. I'm not unsociable, but I quite like the idea of actually not talking because I've done it all morning. Just take some time out for myself. But if people end up talking, great, don't mind. Get a dopamine hit by speaking to people, which is great. But either way, I'll be down there for quite a while, come back up, and at about 1 o'clock, I'll be back in my classroom for 1:15 start. So I can catch up with a few things there, but then 15 minutes of doing things at between 1 and 1:15, I'll probably have got more done than if I came back to my desk and was trying to work for an hour. I got much more done, or I believe I've been more productive in that time. And it's because I take that long break, and 45 minutes is a long time, but I need it. I absolutely need it, and I've learned over time that I need it as well. So absolutely no regrets, no apologies whatsoever as well. And actually, a study by the University of California, because I'm coming up with all these stats and research stats, they found that taking longer breaks, like a full lunch, actually improves productivity and reduces stress. Believe it or not, who knew that taking breaks reduces stress, eh? And the key here is that you need to completely disengage from work during these breaks. And I would absolutely love, by the way, if anyone's listening for people to get in touch with me on LinkedIn. My name's Chris Wilkinson, as you know, or on Twitter. My Twitter handle is Chris W_1987. I would absolutely love you to tell me what's stopping you from taking these long breaks, and stop yourself, and why you're not able to completely disengage from work during these breaks. Because if you are disengaged, it means that you're stepping away from your desk or the classroom, eating in a separate space, allowing your mind to take a proper rest. And if you continue to work through your lunch, you're not giving your brain the chance to fully reset. So if there are any teachers or education leads out there who believe that they can't take a break or fully disengage from work, I would really love to hear from you, because I think shared experiences on this is really important. And it's okay me sharing to you how I do things, but that isn't always the case in other places. And if the garden isn't rosy on this regard, I would very much love to hear from you. Now, a study published in The Lancet, again of all places, found that regular physical activity is associated with lower levels of anxiety and depression. So taking that walk, going somewhere, is really important as well. And again, it gives you a chance to step away from these cognitive tasks as well. Now, let's talk about what we can do to optimize these breaks. The key to an effective break is ensuring that you are, again, truly disconnecting. I don't even sometimes take my phone with me, so I'm not even disconnecting from work. I'm disconnecting from the world, as it were. And it's great when you can come back and have all these things, but at least you've had that time. And again, the goal is to give your mind and body that chance to relax. Now, there was a research polled or conducted by the National Education Union. They found that 60% of teachers said that they work through their break. So if you are listening to me tonight in this situation, if you are one of them 60%, why is that? Is it because you can't afford to take the time off? Is it because you're back to back? Is it because you feel like you can't do much with it? But, this mindset actually undermines productivity and well-being. And by taking time to step away from work, teachers return to their tasks feeling refreshed. And it ties into the importance of making your breaks a ritual as well. So I have this ritual now, and I actually think it would be difficult to break that ritual. I can't imagine. I don't know. Maybe I could just go back to the situation of sitting in the staff room. What I would say though is that actually sitting in the staff room can actually be quite. It can be quite good at times because sometimes we do as a group break out into a conversation. I'm often the one to start. Actually, I'll come up with something controversial and just that I've seen in the newspaper, and it might engage a bit of a meaningful debate. It can be a bit funny and have a bit of a laugh with it. But sometimes that isn't. You've got to read the room, and sometimes people are working, and all you can actually hear is keyboards tapping and mouses clicking, and in them situations, it's not for me the best environment to be in to take my break. So I actually, can't see myself going back to the staff room very often in that situation. But obviously, that's just me. But I've got that ritual now. And if you take that same type of break the same time each day, or as much as you can, it becomes like a mental cue for your brain to switch off. And for every lunch break, you might choose to go for a walk or have a healthy meal or listen to a podcast, or even have a 10-minute stretch session in the same afternoon. And over time, your brain will start to associate these activities with relax and recovery, and it might help you make the most of your time away. And to some of you, might be sounding pie in the sky, but trust me, I've got a full-time teaching schedule. So having that full-time teaching schedule is something that I can say I do this because of this full-time teaching schedule, and despite the fact I have this full-time teaching schedule, I can do this. So I'm not part-time. I'm not an educational lead for part of the time, so I'm not in the classroom. I am full-time teaching, so anything that I need to do needs to be at my desk. And what I'm saying is, when I'm not taking these long breaks, whether it's first thing in the morning or last thing after class at night, I optimize my working time then because I've taken the breaks as well. And let's talk about how it can actually foster this sort of connection with your colleagues as well, because teachers can often work in isolation, especially in busy classrooms, but taking breaks with others as well, whether it's sharing lunch or chatting again in the staff room, it can provide a much needed emotional reset. So if I am finding myself in the classroom, in the staff room, rather than in the breakout area where I can sit on my own and have a think, I will often start a conversation just to get people going as well. And I actually think it's a really good point as well. And if the University of Oxford are telling us that social breaks where teachers connect with colleagues actually improve job satisfaction and reduce stress, who are we to argue with them? This is the University of Oxford. If they're saying it, then surely they must be right. And building these social breaks into your routine can really help strengthen the relationships and create a more supportive work environment. So I think in summary is there are many ways to approach taking breaks, and whether it's through, again, micro breaks, active breaks, or having mental rests, those breaks are a regular part of your routine, and they do ensure that you are genuinely disconnecting from work, because breaks are an investment in your well-being and ultimately in your effectiveness as a teacher. So take them seriously, and please make the most of them.
This show is brought to you in partnership with Hachette Learning, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Level up your professional development today and visit hachetlearning.com to explore the full range of titles.
Teachers, have you heard of Bet UK 2026? It's the world's biggest education and technology event, and it's completely free for educators. From keynote speakers and panel sessions to CPD accredited workshops and networking, Bet UK 2026 is where educators from across the globe come together to share ideas, spark inspiration, and find solutions that fuel our mission to drive better education globally. Get your free ticket today at betshow.com.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
BBC Scotland reports that an East Dunbartonshire secondary school with more than 1,300 pupils has been found to pose a substantial risk to life from fire, according to a fire safety report. The report says that the school, named by the BBC as Lenzie Academy, had fire exits that were not easily accessible nor immediately openable, fire doors were not always closed, and were not in good condition. The EIS Teaching Union described conditions in the school as dangerous and said its members have voted to initiate an indicative ballot for industrial action. The report also found there was not suitable protection of escape routes, not all cooking appliances were maintained and in a good condition, and combustible materials were not always separated from ignition sources. 25 recommendations were made in total, but the council chief executive for the area said the school remains safe for pupils, teachers and staff to occupy, and the issues listed as immediate threat to life had already been addressed. Full details, including calls by parents for the school to be rebuilt, can be found on the BBC News Scotland website. Schools Week reports that Ofsted has tweaked its inspection framework to tackle concerns raised during pilot inspections, just days before its new report cards are due to be rolled out. Findings from 115 pilot inspections have been published, and in the narrative summary the watchdog says feedback has been really encouraging, but says some leaders did raise concerns. These issues included increased workload and pressure on staff, particularly in smaller schools, and worries about how achievement is evaluated. The changes include modifications to the size of inspection teams at smaller schools and tweaks to the inspection toolkits. Some leaders feared that schools would be tempted to be less inclusive so they could score more highly on achievement. Ofsted has added the word typically to one of its expected standards for achievement, which may be an attempt to address this. The toolkit now reads, on the whole, pupils achieve well. Typically, this will be reflected in their attainment and progress in national tests and examinations, which are broadly in line with national averages, including for disadvantaged pupils. Full details on the tweaks can be found in Schools Week. The Francis Review has been covered by a range of media outlets, including TES, Schools Week and many mainstream news sites. However, one article in Schools Week has focused on ministers' acceptance of one of the review's key calls, to bring religious education into the national curriculum. Professor Francis's review has called for government to set up a task force to develop a national curriculum for RE, but ministers have said the sector must reach consensus on whether this is achievable. Currently, all state schools must teach pupils the subject up to the age of 18, but the syllabus is determined at local authority level. The sector is to be invited to form a task and finish group led by Dr. Vanessa Ogden, CEO of the Mulberry Schools Trust, and panellists on the Francis Review. More details and comment from teachers, leaders and Humanists UK can be found on Schools Week. Just as the Curriculum and Assessment Review considers the role the arts play in the economy and how engagement with these subjects can be promoted, the BBC reports that all music courses are being suspended for new students at the University of Nottingham. In an announcement in the last week, the institution said it was also suspending modern language courses and proposed to reduce its nursing offer. Students currently on courses will be supported to complete their studies. The University and College Union said it is opposing the cuts. Full details of the announcement can be found online. Finally, a new university specialising in dentistry is one of the projects being considered as part of the redevelopment of Weymouth, according to local news outlets. The plans for the university are being developed in partnership with Health Sciences University and local NHS partners. More details online. This has been Teachers Talk Radio News with Joe Fox.
Well, welcome back to the Thursday Late Late Show with me, Chris Wilkinson. And now that we've explored the science behind breaks and the different types of breaks you can take, let's turn our attention to some practical tips on how you can actually incorporate these breaks into your busy teaching day. Now, as we all know, teaching schedules can be hectic and finding time to take proper breaks can feel like a challenge. But with a bit of planning and intention, it can be done. We can certainly make it happen. And you can weave breaks into your day without compromising your teaching or indeed your responsibilities. Now, the first tip I have is about planning your breaks. Now, the reality is that teaching and, you know, having these sessions that are back to back and having meetings and administrative work and other things, gets on top of you. And the best way to ensure that you are getting the rest that you need is actually to schedule breaks, just like you would schedule a lesson or a meeting, and blocking out time in your calendar for these breaks. And again, it doesn't have to be long. 5 minutes between lessons can make a huge difference. Now, for instance, if you have a 60-minute lesson, you can plan to take a 5-minute break afterwards to reset before jumping into the next one, like we said. But we've said this earlier, but what I'm saying is you can actually plan these breaks, you can actually put them in. And whether it's a stretch or walk around or whatever, you can actually do this as well. And by keeping these breaks as a non-negotiable appointment in your day, you ensure that they happen and that you do in fact create a habit. Now, the next tip is to use your breaks to physically move. So many teachers find themselves seated at a desk or standing in front of a classroom. They tend not to do much else sometimes. They tend not to feel that they can do much else, except maybe sitting with students for a one-to-one or in another meeting. But we did discuss earlier that physical activity helps improve circulation as well, which can reduce sort of back pain, neck pain, that sort of thing as well, and sort of just enhance overall well-being. But it's not just about moving for the sake of it. It can boost your energy levels and cognitive function too. So what can this movement look like? I mean, I keep talking about movement. What is it? Well, again, it doesn't have to be a workout. It's just getting your blood flowing. And that's what's key. So you can use a 5-minute break to walk briskly around the school corridors. Like I do that. I will literally walk around, and sometimes I'll have a bit of chat with people along the way, and it might just be that I actually stop and have a chat with them, other colleagues, and sometimes even students. Just a bit of crack here and there. It's really good. They don't mind it. Take the stairs instead of the lift, or do a few stretches at your desk, which I don't do, but I do know people who do a few stretches at the desk, and they seem to find it really helps as well. And even something as simple as moving or walking to the staff room for a cup of tea instead of having it at your desk is a really good chance to move as well. And if you're feeling more energetic, why not go around the school grounds at lunchtime, weather permitting, or even do a yoga session? I've never done yoga in college, and like I said before, I'm not a big fan of it because of the breathing, but again, people do it because physical movements during breaks can really help you to refresh yourself for the next task. And like I said, take your breaks outside as well. It might sound simple, but being outdoors can have a profound effect on your mood. And studies will probably show this as well. I don't actually have any studies on outside, but it will be that spending time in nature will reduce your stress and hopefully improve your cognitive function as well. Fresh air is really lush for you as well. A short walk around the schoolyard or around the block can help you feel energized as well. The natural world is restorative, and getting away from the often confined and busy classroom really can help clear your mind, especially living in a nice part of the world as well. I work in Durham. Durham is a lovely part of the world, and I'm fortunate enough to sometimes get out on a run, but that's only when I really have the time, and Durham's lush for that, I must say. But wherever you are and wherever you're working, there will be a lush part that you can take advantage of as well. And if you find it hard to completely just disconnect, like I said, another strategy that you might want to use is actually technology to help as well. And there are several apps that can help encourage mindfulness and relaxation during breaks. Other apps are available, but I know Headspace, Calm, and there's another app called the Insight Timer, which an Insight Timer you don't actually need to listen or do anything. It'll ring, like a little bell will ring when your minutes start or your 3 minutes start, and it'll ding again when time is up. And in them 3 minutes, you don't do anything. You sit there, you take that time to breathe or to break and have a stress, and you can do that without actually having to leave your desk if you feel that you're finding it really hard to completely disconnect as well. So anything from using an app to disconnect right the way through to going for a jog or even wandering around the block, there's many ways to find these strategies as well. And apps like Forest encourage you to stay off your phone and focus on mindfulness by planting a virtual tree which grows the longer you stay off your screen. How amazing is that? But that might not be the reason. Again, you might want to be on your phone because you might want to catch up with your friends, on a group chat or something, and it's fine, whatever. It's just an option, is what I'm saying. If you find it hard to completely disconnect, technology can help you to disconnect, ironically. And it can be a fun way to ensure that you are using your breaks for relaxation rather than work. And of course, making your breaks social. So the people that you spend your time with during the day are the people that share the same problems as you. But, making your breaks social instead of, treating teaching forever as being a solitary job is a really good for helping you with dealing with students and focus on individual lessons. And taking breaks with colleagues can be a great way to release some tension or to build support networks. I've got a few colleagues that I do take breaks with, and they happen to be fellow football fans, which is great because you can have a bit of chat about that. But some aren't, and you'll find a common ground between you that isn't about a particular student or a class or anything that is work related. And having that break is a great mental break as well. And again, it avoids that feeling of burnout, which of course it's very easy to achieve. I regularly had burnout and can still achieve burnout quite easily if I don't take these rituals and these strategies that we're being talked about tonight. So you don't have to have a deep philosophical conversation during your breaks. It could just be chatting about anything. And the fact that it's unrelated will really help. Unrelated to work, that is, will really help. And, the simple act of laughing with someone will really help lift your spirits, I'm sure, as well. So a good tip, what about break buddies? Work wives, that's a phrase, isn't it? Or work besties. What about break buddies? Why not? And it could be with a colleague or two. Agree to take your breaks together. It might be that you all have breaks at the same time, but you don't actually take your break immediately because you might not want to eat with them. You might want to quickly eat on your own and then take a break, whatever. So you could be sharing a cup of tea or going for a walk or something. Maybe saying, right, 15 minutes into your break, let's go for a walk. That gives me 15 minutes to have my lunch. And if you really feel like you want to do some work in that time, fine, because eventually you're going to step away from your desk. And having a break buddy, you don't want to let anybody down, do you? Let's be honest. If you're saying I'm going to meet somebody at a certain time, you're not going to let them down, are you? Hopefully. So that gives you an opportunity to break away as well. And it compels you to break away as well, doesn't it? And it gives you chances for someone to chat with, to make it more enjoyable, and having that consistency as well of having that routine. And I mean, there's a lot of stuff on sleep as well. And if I'm honest, we can talk about prioritising sleep. I think sleep is something that I wouldn't be qualified in talking about, but and I know sleep can really help with recovery, and it can create routines in that sense as well. But I purely want to talk about what happens at lunchtime and at break time as well. So I think sleep could be something that we could delve into at some point as well. If anybody out there has any knowledge of sleep or wants to delve into it a bit more and about how in things during the day can help teachers sleep a bit better, then please feel free. I know Mark at 11 o'clock at night will probably do that, but away from all that, if there's anyone out there listening who really wants to talk about sleep, then feel free to. But I do know sleep could be a really big factor as well. But what I want to do is talk about in our last segment tonight, rather than talking about things outside of college and schools and whatever else, it's just what we do in class. It's just also how we think, if anyone's a middle leader or a senior leader listening, how schools can also help support teachers with their breaks.
This show is brought to you in partnership with Hachette Learning, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Level up your professional development today and visit hachetlearning.com to explore the full range of titles.
Teachers, have you heard of Bet UK 2026? It's the world's biggest education and technology event, and it's completely free for educators. From keynote speakers and panel sessions to CPD accredited workshops and networking, Bet UK 2026 is where educators from across the globe come together to share ideas, spark inspiration, and find solutions that fuel our mission to drive better education globally. Get your free ticket today at betshow.com.
Well, welcome back to the final segment of the Late Late Show with me, Chris Wilkinson, and we've covered some strategies for taking breaks as individuals. So let's zoom out and look at how schools and leadership teams can support teachers in taking meaningful breaks too. Schools play a huge role in shaping the culture of work, and the way a school supports teachers' well-being can make a massive difference in how effective breaks are for their staff too. And one key way that schools can support breaks is by creating a culture that values time off, that right to switch off. And my college included, as well as others I know, have this policy of this right to switch off. It's really supportive. And what I'm saying is that this is something that should almost certainly be rolled out elsewhere as well, because too often teachers feel like they must stay in school for as long as possible, which can create this workaholic culture where they're expected to always be working. And leadership teams can certainly counter this by setting clear expectations around work-life balance. And my experience is that school leaders do this, and leadership teams are excellent at this. So this may be a redundant point, but I'm sure there's people out there feeling that this could be improved in some areas as well. And if school leadership, it visibly values time off and ensures teachers aren't overwhelmed, it can create this environment where breaks aren't just encouraged, but it's an essential part of the day. And like I said, we have a break room specifically for that. So I have an excellent place where it values breaks and well-being, but certainly to the wider community, what we're saying is this is something that school leaders could certainly be doing more of as well. And a study by the Education Support Partnership found that teachers who work in schools that actively encourage work-life balance can lower stress and report feeling more positive about their work. So it's actually in the best interest of school leaders, because they'll probably get better staff satisfaction survey results as well. So it's a win-win because that's a positive effect as well. And it can also, so in practice, we can actually prioritize breaks in the school timetable. Might sound simple, but actually something that schools might actually overlook. So schools might expect teachers to be constant in lessons with little to no break in between. So good timetabling can help that as well. But obviously, providing spaces where teachers can relax and decompress, like what we have, is great. And staff rooms are great, but they should feel like comfortable spaces rather than workspaces as well. and I don't know if we still call them staff rooms. Are they not work rooms now? So if they're work rooms, they certainly can't be break rooms, can they? So in that sense, we should be we should be asking for that as well. And obviously support can come in other ways as well, like flexible working options, leadership teams sort of modeling healthy behaviour too, like them being seen to be taking breaks as well, engaging in self-care, which again, I this happens quite regularly, and certainly everywhere I've worked, we can see leadership teams taking part as well in things like, I don't know, sports, in particular, or at break time just sitting in the breakout room as well, and just having these periods where we can just see that whoever you are, whether you are a senior leader, a teacher, or a support staff, whoever, you're all taking these meaningful breaks. And when you're in the breakout room together, it doesn't really matter. You're all just people taking a break on their work, and it's really nice to see that at all levels, people are actually doing that. So senior leadership teams modelling good behaviour on that as well. Because teacher wellbeing should be embedded into the school's overall strategy and ethos. It isn't just about individual taking breaks, it's about creating this school-wide culture that prioritises wellbeing and supports, teachers at every single level. Because ultimately, schools that support teachers in taking breaks aren't just improving their staff's well-being, they're creating a positive, sustainable environment for teaching and learning. So, as we come to the end of today's show, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've discussed. We've looked at the importance of taking meaningful breaks throughout the day, positive impact that has on our well-being, and how schools can support us in taking those breaks as well. And it might sound cliche, but self-care really is essential. It's easy to get caught up in the whirlwind of lesson plans, grading, planning, marking, teaching, meetings, parents' conversations, and just trying to be everything to everyone. But if we're not taking care of ourselves and we're not going to be able to give our best to our support to support our students, then that means that those breaks, whether it's a 10-minute walk, a proper lunch from your desk, or simply stepping outside to get some air, aren't really. It's not good. It's not going to work for you. And it's also about recognizing that breaks aren't just time off. It's an investment in our physical, mental, and emotional health. And research has clearly shown this as well, that taking regular breaks reduces stress, boosts creativity, and just enhances productivity. And it's not selfish to take time for yourself. It's actually essential. And it's essential for your job and maintaining a healthy work-life balance. But we also need to acknowledge the barriers that make it hard for teachers to take these breaks. The pressure to keep working, the guilt of stepping away from the classroom or office, the heavy workload, these are real challenges to real people. And as we've talked about it, these barriers can really overcome people. And they can be overcome by setting clear boundaries around your time, prioritizing self-care, and creating spaces where you can unwind, whether that's even in the classroom. And it's steps that we can take regularly to make breaks a regular part of our day. So for those of you who are school leaders or in positions of responsibility, remember that you play a vital role in the teacher's well-being. By modelling healthy behaviours, creating cultures that prioritise breaks, and reducing workload pressures, you can make a world of difference. And it's about more than just encouraging breaks, it's about embedding their well-being into the very fabric of the school's culture. And for all of us, about changing the narrative about breaks as well. We need to move away from the idea that taking a break means we're slacking off. Instead, let's see breaks as a necessary part of maintaining the energy, the focus, the enthusiasm that makes us great teachers. And it's not about working harder, it's about working smarter. And that starts with us taking care of ourselves. I want to leave you with a thought. Think ahead of your day tomorrow. Think about your day ahead. How will you prioritize yourself today? When will you step away, even just for a few moments, to recharge? You can't pour from an empty cup. So it's time we all start putting well-being at the forefront of our teaching practice. Thank you for joining me today. I really hope that this show has inspired you to take a break, to advocate your own well-being, and to create space you need to thrive both in and outside the classroom. Because teachers, we deserve it. And our students deserve the very best versions of ourselves. So thank you very much for your time and take care. And I'll see you next time on Teachers Talk Radio. But for now, as always, happy teaching.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.